welcome into the Snap, episode 220 today, talking to you guys about week 12 waivers. If you didn't catch our waiver video today, you got us here live in the flesh. As always, got my guy Landon here with me, my co-host Tried and True till the end. Trade deadline in most leagues is over, so what do we have to do? Dominate the waiver. That's what we're going to do to get you right. Who should you spend your money on? Who should you burn your priority on? Those are the questions we've got. Lando, as always, how are you? And are you ready?
I'm great. The difference with the waivers now is you probably need to start them and add them, or add them and start them. I did
Correct.
that backwards.
Yes, that is the way.
These players that are letting us down week in and week out, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, you just can't trust them anymore. So are there actual waiver ads that you can start? We'll get into everything today. If you're watching this live, we will be answering questions at the end. But if you watch this after the fact, get us in the comments because we answer every subscriber question. So if you have a tough start, say for Thanksgiving, there's a great slate coming on this Thursday. Get me in the comments and I'll give you the best advice we can, tell you about our rankings, give us like your scoring format, if you're projected to win or lose, all that stuff in the comments. And I'll make sure to get back to you in time for Thursday football.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thursday football this week is going to be really good. A nice slate of games. We've got, off the top of my head, Detroit, Buffalo to start. Then we've got a divisional matchup, the Giants, Cowboys. And then to finish, where's my memory? It's the Vikings and
Patriots.
See if the Vikings can bounce back. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there were no mid-flight gritties or chain. What do you want to call it?
Kirk Cousins had his shirt on the entire flight.
There you go.
It was buttoned up to the top. He had the polo on. No nipples on the flight back.
Dang. He was iced out, though. You got to give it to Kirk.
I don't think those chains were his. Do you?
Considering that, like, one of them said, like, Jay Jettas, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Waiver wires for the week, the ads that you should be making. We're going to go through and give you, what we would spend on the top players, if they should be truly worth a roster ad for you or not. I think the first one that we need to start with here, Landon, is Latavius Murray.
Correct.
Currently only 25% owned. This sort of comes on the back of Latavius Murray now getting a lion's share of the workload with the Denver Broncos moving on from Melvin Gordon. That was kind of shocker to me.
I was surprised. This year has been a roller coaster for the Denver Broncos. Everyone thought that division was going to be the best in the league, and it was going to be crazy with Russell Wilson. We had Devontae Adams. And obviously the Chiefs and the Chargers being elite as well. Mm-hmm. And the Broncos are the same. They've got an elite defense with a bad offense. And Latavius or Melvin Gordon was taking away snaps and touches from Javonte Williams, and the fantasy industry was up in arms. And now it's come full circle where Melvin Gordon leaves. Latavius Murray's by himself. And I don't know what to make of this. Like, Nathaniel Hackett is I'm just scratching my head with this one, Mac.
An absolute chop.
Yeah, he should be let go.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple coaches that are on the block here for being fired. He's definitely one of them. And I feel like Arthur Smith is going to be another candidate that just gets the axe. But there's just nothing that you can point to now for the Broncos. Like, their defense is fantastic. Mm-hmm. They are one of the best in the league against the pass, against the run. They hold teams to a really low point total, and they still can't get a win. And it's like, yes, they lost their best, running back in Javonte Williams. Yes, Jerry Jeudy's been in and out of the lineup, but like, you brought in a $250 million quarterback in Russell Wilson, who has a long resume of performing in, Super Bowls, deep into the playoffs. Like, this is no stranger to big moments. And he looks, Worse than Baker Mayfield at times.
Oh, that is bold. I agree.
That's probably some hyperbole, but it's to the point where like you're not playing Russell Wilson in fantasy, even when it felt like this was the perfect scenario. And like can you blame Russell Wilson, or does it go further to Nathaniel Hackett? I think it goes there.
I think Russell deserves some blame. Last year, remember after that finger surgery, he looked really bad, and we thought, you know what, it was just that injured finger.
Sure.
He actually had looking back, he had some good games to finish the year, but either way, man, I don't know what to do with it. I think it's a mix of both. He has to get some blame. He hasn't looked good, but I do think with an experienced coach, like say if Sean Payton went to Denver or Peyton Manning helped out in Denver, I think it'd be a much different story.
So Latavius Murray, now the primary back with the complement of Marlon Mack, if you didn't know that. That is the backup running back for the Broncos now. Finished as the RB11 last week, 17 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. Was not solo, but will be solo now. Had a 50% snap share. I am probably looking to spend about 25% of my remaining budget at the very minimum if I need somebody. And this is like a chance to get a starting running back on your team. You know, that these moments don't come around often at this point in the season.
If you have, say, $25 left, I would spend $20 or $21, right? Sure. Like, I'd like to keep a few dollars left for the playoffs if you're in a great spot, but I'm going to almost spend most of it or look to see what your league mates have left. I mean, coming to the end of the season and playoffs, you'll have a handful of teams that are checked out, but look at the teams that need running backs, and that's going to be your gauge on how much to spend on Latavius. If you have the least amount of fab, spend it all. You know, sure. If you have the most, just spend $1 more than that guy.
I think, yeah, you're right. Once you get down to like, you know, someone has 25% of their budget left, they might spend it all. If you haven't spent a dime and you have $100, I would spend, you know, like 50 of it, you know, like, or to your point, look at other guys in your league. You know, if someone has 70, rule of thumb, an aggressive bid would be 50% of that. So, you know, put $36 down or outbid the highest guy so that you can get him no matter what. But this is a guy who's going to project to get a starting workload, you know, double-digit carries on a weekly basis, even in a bad offense. Opportunity is king at running back. And I think if you have number one priority, you should spend it on Latavius Murray, or you should spend it on this guy.
Treylon Burks. I mean, he looked really good, and we've been kind of holding out hope for Treylon Burks. He's been banged up and injured all year. He only ran a 50% snap share, but on that he had 8 targets. So that's really, really good. Even the week before, kind of the same thing. So we saw it all against Green Bay this past week, Mac. He looked great. Yes, he's no AJ Brown, but they are going to give him every opportunity to be that guy. They drafted him super high. They basically traded AJ Brown for him. They need to know what they have in him. So I think he's going to get peppered with targets as the season goes on. So you're adding him and starting him, right? And what kind of fab would you actually spend on a wide receiver, a rookie wide receiver?
Well, it's a rookie wide receiver in an offense that just doesn't have an alpha. Like Robert Woods has been very disappointing. Other than one game, Nick Westbrook-Ikine has been a ghost. And Derrick Henry just doesn't get the passing work that you would want. So this team is desperate for that alpha. And it looks like Treylon Burks is it. 7 for 111, almost 14 per target. Did he get into the end zone? No, he did not. He has not scored a touchdown yet, actually, in his NFL career. So we are still awaiting that milestone. But I'm looking to spend, 50% of what I have left, because I think that this guy can be a streamer down the stretch. Got a nice matchup here against Cincinnati in week 12. Awuzie is out for the Bengals. Then you've got the Eagles, is an okay matchup. The Jags, decent matchup. The Chargers, we saw them give it up to the Chiefs. And then you've got the Houston Texans, great matchup. Dallas Cowboys in championship week, that could be a tough one, but stopping Derrick Henry is no easy feat. And if the run game continues the way that it's going for this team, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the passing game. And we don't have to deal with Malik Willis anymore. We have our Mr. Ryan Tannehill back, who is, he brings so much more to this offense from a passing standpoint. So, yeah, Treylon Burks, I like him. Top 5 in target separation and top 20 in yards per route run. When this guy is on the field, he's productive.
Yeah, we've got some great questions in the chat. We'll get to your questions after we get to some of these waiver ads. But I think Treylon Burks should be considered in the same range as Paris Campbell, Adam Thielen, kind of Deontay Johnson. Like, you're not thrilled to start these guys, but he's in that same range. He's probably a top 40 wide receiver this week, and that's a very contemporary ranking this week for Treylon Burks.
It's conservative.
That's what I should have said.
Contemporary. Maybe not the word.
Proper word. Conservative ranking for Treylon Burks. He's got upside. He's a rookie. I mean, clearly he's got downside, but he's got a ton of upside as well.
Speaking of upside, waiver wire ad number 3, still floating on about 50% of leagues. He's only 51% owned. Likely going to land with a team this week. We thought it might be at the end of last week, but Odell Beckham Jr. talks that he is speaking with the Giants, speaking with the Cowboys, who, funny enough, Landon, play each other this week. You think that game has anything to do with where he might go?
The Odell sweepstakes. The winner probably lands Odell, which is crazy. They're rivals. It's going to be fun to watch. If I was him, I would go to the Cowboys.
You would think.
I mean, I'd rather have Dak Prescott throwing me the football than Daniel Jones, obviously. Mm-hmm. However, we talked briefly before we went live, and I mean, going back to New York, going back to his best buddy Saquon Barkley, being the savior of New York, the king of New York, coming back to save them. Wan'Dale Robinson, the exciting rookie, just is out for the season now. They don't have anyone besides Saquon, and he would have such a warm welcome from the New York Giants. So I think that's pulling at his heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to go back home and be the hero and try to reinvigorate this season and make a playoff run with your old pals. But
if he went to the Giants, would you
right?
Is he are you starting him after the Giants as the number 1 option for Daniel Jones?
Yeah, primarily because he is the number 1 guy.
Yeah, Slayton now goes to being a non-startable asset.
I don't know about non-startable, but in a deeper league, he's still a flex. But if you're in a shallower league, like a 10-team league, I don't think you start him. No,
I think Slayton right now is somewhat reliable.
Yep, he's been getting the targets. The thing is that this team wants to run the football, and apparently it doesn't matter if it's Saquon Barkley or Matt Breida. They're going to move that ball on the ground as much as they can. You bring in a weapon like Odell Beckham, though, that kind of changes things a little bit. They might have a higher propensity of passing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I would spend, I'm not going to blow the bank on Odell because you cannot start him this week. So if you need a play, I
do still think we're in the range of being sneaky. Like, I've picked up Odell in a couple leagues, last week and even the week before, because I had the luxury of having the bench space. If you don't have the bench space, then don't make the move. It's a luxury pick. But if you do, you could probably still snag him for cheap, a couple dollars, because he just hasn't landed yet. And there's really no urgency to go get him, but this could be a nice stash. And if we take away the trade button, we have to be a little bit more savvy. So that could be the move of the week. I want to talk about here waiver ad number 4, someone who magically finding their way back into a role. Cam Akers, only 39% owned, coming off of only a 40% snap share, but 14 attempts for 61 yards, 4.4 carry, Do we like what we saw at Cam Akers? Do we project that to be something that sticks? Are you rostering him if you have the chance?
In deep leagues, he's worth a roster spot. I just don't have any confidence starting him. The LA Rams are a mess. Kyron Williams got 55% of snaps last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be split. They like this rookie Kyron Williams, and I don't think there's much value in the backfield for the Rams at all.
No, the team's kind of a mess. Looks like Matthew Stafford probably going to miss a week here. It's his second concussion this season. And if I'm not mistaken, 3 within the last 2 seasons. This is a guy who just, is bordering on can't really afford anymore. And I wonder if we're going to see Matt Stafford down the stretch with this team spiraling out of control, last in their division, nowhere close to a playoff spot. Cooper Kupp on IR.
They should, Matt
they
Stafford
should shut it down, right?
Should hang him up for the season.
That's what I kind of agree. Now, part of that is like, is that why we're seeing Cam Akers? Is because they're just like, hey, we need to kind of show this guy off. We need to shop him to other teams that he's still good, he still has value, and we can trade him. Because ultimately, I think Cam Akers wants to still leave this team.
I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going on, but you saw that they released Darrell Henderson. Did you say that already?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're doing with the Rams, but it's a dumpster fire there. Maybe they're featuring him but I mean, they're not doing a very good job featuring him because he's splitting the backfield with a rookie. They're a bad team. Like, how can you make someone look good with backup quarterbacks and a messed up offensive line? It's tough.
Yeah, if I was putting any money on someone here, it would be on Kyron Williams, who has looked good in the passing game, whose role has grown week over week since becoming healthy. I think what we saw from Cam Akers was they just need another back in this system, given the fact that Henderson has been departed. But I wouldn't be spending much money on Cam Akers. If I could, though, I would spend as much money as possible on this guy right here, Rachaad White. He's our 5th guy we're going to talk about. 66% owns. This doesn't apply to a lot of you. But if you are in a league, even if it's a shallower league where Rachaad White is available, I think you have to spend number one priority. I think you have to spend up, 50% of your remaining budget to get him on your team, because the word on the street is he is going to be the lead back for this team moving forward. And this is typically something that we see teams coming off a bye week with a rookie player. We see an increased workload year over year. Rachaad White, and I know you're big on Rachaad White as well.
Absolutely. He's one of the guys that we've been stashing all year. Mm-hmm. And even if it is a 60-40 split with Fournette, he's still valuable on the Bucs. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's roughly around that mark. Last week before the break, it was 64% Rachaad White. So even better ratio of the two backs. But
sure,
big fan of him. The upside on the Bucs, they're going to get in the playoffs like they always do. He's going to be heavily involved. I think he's more valuable in standard leagues where Fournette still might be the pass-catching running back. That's typical with rookies because they're not really that good at pass protection. And, Fournette's such a big guy. So most passing downs, it feels like Fournette might be on the field a little bit more. But we'll see what happens. I still think the upside is truly there. It's the Tampa Bay Bucs. I would agree. He would be your number one priority if he was dropped on their bye week.
Very, very interesting. Anybody that you wanted to highlight here that is available? I've got one in my mind, but I was going to flip it over to you if there's anyone you want to talk about that we haven't yet.
As far as wide receivers go, I mentioned it briefly, Darius Slayton. I think he's a good add at the wide receiver position. You could look at Greg Dortch. He had a great game on Monday night. But we're expecting Hollywood Brown to be back, so I wouldn't actually put too much money on Greg Dortch or priority. Had a great game, but it's
really interesting with him because if he is given the opportunity, he can have massive games.
He looks great.
I think he's he's a guy on this team that needs to be elevated from his role of, special teams to like a permanent wide receiver, because he's got the burst. He's reliable. He's had 2 games now with double-digit targets, 3 games with 7 or more receptions, a 100-yard game this past week. Like, Greg Dortch just gets it done, even with Hollywood Brown. I mean, I don't even care. You lost Zach Ertz. Why not elevate somebody who can help you run 3 wide receiver sets with Brown, Hopkins, and Dortch? That would be a great combo.
Yeah. One guy we need to mention actually that you can start right away is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's only 56% owned, and he is getting a ton of targets, ton of yards. I know producer Scott has been running him out in one of our deep leagues, and next week, week 13, Deshaun Watson is coming back. So
yes, he is.
To be a number 2 option for Deshaun Watson, I think there's a ton of upside with that. So I would, if you need to start this weekend, you might not because there's no one on bye. I think he's a very, very viable flex play.
Another stash candidate.
I know who you're going to say.
Waiver ad. Number 6, Jameson Williams, 42% owned. He has been given the go-ahead to start practicing this week, which means that we could see Jameson Williams, even though I don't expect him. It's possible that we see him this Thursday against the Buffalo Bills at home.
Yeah. Big fan of Jameson Williams.
Huge.
We're excited to watch him play. I still think Amon-Ra is an every week start no matter what.
No matter what, yep.
But the Lions score fantasy points. They're one of the best teams in football for fantasy players. It's crazy. But yeah, James Williams, if you don't need to start this week, you can probably get him still for pretty cheap because, people are adding to play.
I think this is a stash. For anybody who followed college football the last couple of years, Jameson Williams would be no stranger to your radar. If you haven't, just go familiarize yourself with Jameson Williams. See what this man can do. Had he not had a pretty significant injury at the end of college, he might have gone top 10.
Yeah, it might have been the first wide receiver off the board.
Yeah. Very, very skilled, very talented wide receiver, lots of speed, really good nose for the football. Like, he's going to bring an element to this offense that we don't really have right now. Like, I think the one person that probably fills the role that Jameson will have is like Khalif Raymond, and we see what he's able to do. But someone who can stretch the field, who can, create a lot for himself after the catch. Kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but less slotty.
Sure.
He's not the slot machine, but he's going to be a guy that can burn you. This is just another weapon for Jared Goff. So I'm super excited to see him play. I hope that he balls out at the end of the season and everyone goes, wow, who's this guy? But someone I'm keeping my eye on, and I'm going to stash him in leagues that I can. Unfortunately, I play in no leagues where he's available. So
I know.
It's sad.
As a just tip for people wondering about defenses, the Denver Broncos play the Carolina Panthers this week with Sam Darnold, which is a great ad. And then the Kansas City Chiefs play the LA Rams, another very, very good matchup. So I'm going to, if you do need a streaming defense and those guys or those two are available on your waivers, I would, and your starting lineup is great, I would put some actual fab, $3 to $5, just so you can secure a good defense this week.
And I think one that we're going to throw in again, the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, I'm going to throw in as well because I forgot to, the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh. I think when we talk about a defense that you could snag if available, the Ravens or the Ravens or the Eagles rest of season, I think is just a plug and play option for you defensively. So Denver and Kansas City are really good options for week 12. I think week 12 and beyond, you're looking at the Ravens and the Eagles if available in your league.
Oh yeah, they're the Ravens are really good. We went out over the schedule last week: Jacksonville, Denver, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Atlanta, Pittsburgh again. The Ravens might be a league-winning defense if you do have them on your team.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's how we're navigating waivers this week. If there's anybody that we missed or didn't talk about and you want to know our perspective, leave it in the comments. We are going to flip it over to the comments now, headed down there in order. Let me just get this banner off. Okay, there we go. Let's head to the comments. We have, our guy Easy Daddy, loving life at the moment, 3-game winning streak in his home league. That's our guy. Way to go, my man. Michael, Pickens or Burks for the waiver wire pickup.
And I'm surprised Pickens is available. He's owned in most leagues, and I think I would stick with George Pickens.
Yeah, George Pickens owned in 77% of leagues, so I'm going to assume that this is a shallower league, but I am going to pick up George Pickens instead of Treylon Burks.
Yeah,
we didn't bring George Pickens' name up because he is so much higher owned, but
yeah,
I would still go with Pickens.
Yep, I agree. He's on a bit of a touchdown streak right now.
Is DJ Moore a good buy low candidate with a change of quarterback?
Easy. No, I don't. If you're in a league that the trade deadline has not passed, I am definitely not trying to trade for DJ Moore unless it's dynasty formats. DJ Moore is almost just a drop in some leagues.
It's so sad.
Yeah. He's definitely not a start. You just have to put him on your bench and hope there's a trend before the end of the season, but he needs to go off on your bench probably 2 consecutive games for me to feel comfortable again.
I don't think I'm ever going to feel comfortable with Baker Mayfield
or Sam Darnold.
Like, Walker's really been the only guy where it's been like, okay, there's some downfield throws, there's some volume. I feel okay with him, but I don't feel good with either of these guys, which is crazy to say, but DJ Moore just kind of feels like an afterthought for this offense. And they've struggled to move the ball.
Yeah,
against anybody not named Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a 0% chance that he doesn't get massive amount of targets with Sam Darnold, but I'm not going to project that. I'm not going to trust that. The offense is just stagnant. And I mean, Deontay Foreman only plays good against the Falcons as well. So I think you just need to bench him despite the volume that he's getting.
Should I trade Isaiah Pacheco and Christian Watson for Christian Kirk in a full PPR? I already have Cook, Etienne Diggs, and Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Gabe Davis, Fields and Carr at quarterback looking to make up points, upgrading the flex. I don't think so. I don't necessarily know that Christian Kirk is a massive upgrade to either of these guys. I think if you were to start this from scratch from this point forward, is Christian Kirk that big of an upgrade over Christian Watson?
Yes.
Is it at the expense of potentially having 1 to 2 pieces you could start or rely on if anything changes on your roster for depth?
Right. And I mean, Christian Kirk quietly is the number 9 wide receiver in fantasy.
Oh, I know. He's been fantastic. I'm just saying if the season starts today.
Right. If the season starts today, I'm still drafting Kirk over both those guys.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a ton of depth already. I don't know if you have a really good roster. It looks like a pretty shallow league. I don't know how many starting places you have, but I think I would probably do that deal. I don't think he needs to. Pacheco is a startable running back now, but we know that the Chiefs just don't run the football. They just pass the football over expectation. And
this was their first 100-yard rusher since 2019, I think I saw.
He ran for 100 yards?
He did.
Wow.
Yeah.
107, yeah. That's crazy.
So this is the way I look at it. Christian Kirk, you are not starting over Diggs, Devontae Adams, or likely Gabe Davis on any given week. And then, at your flex, you could throw in Christian Kirk. The potential you run into if you lose one of these wide receivers is that you could rely on Watson or Pacheco at your, other spots. If you do a 2-for-1 and end up falling short, that could be something that burns you. But Christian Kirk at best, I think, is a flex play in this offense. If Pacheco gets a starting workload, is that better than Christian Kirk on a week-to-week basis? I don't know. Is
Yeah.
Devontae Smith that much of a step down from Christian Kirk?
I think they're close every week, and I would probably just roll with Kirk based on what he's done so far this year. But I'm a big fan of Devontae Smith. He has disappeared a couple times, and so has Kirk. I mean, it happens with every wide receiver. But
I would be tempted to maybe take, Christian Watson off of 2 really big games and pair him with a Devontae Smith or a Gabe Davis and really upgrade. Like, really go out and get a bigger upgrade than Christian Kirk. I know Christian Kirk's been good. It just doesn't feel like the biggest upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've said this before. After a bye week, sometimes it's easier to acquire a player.
Go get Chris Godwin.
Yeah, that's true. Or I was going to say Jalen Waddle, but he might be hard to get.
Yeah.
But he's the number 6. So it's like really you're still trading for a top 10 guy. I just prefer the Dolphins offense.
I think I would just try to trade up and get a bigger return. I think, Christian Kirk on paper has been good. I don't know that I have the confidence in him to keep that going. And I think your depth's a little bit more important. So unless you can upgrade that to like a Chris Godwin or a Jalen Waddle, then I probably wouldn't do it.
I mean, Kirk has 7 touchdowns this year. So,
yep.
I mean, a lot of his production and ranking right now is on the back of touchdowns.
Is it safe to fire up Keenan Allen over Brandon Ayuk now that he's getting back and Mike Williams is injured?
I still think there's a injury risk to Keenan Allen, but it does feel good that he played a full game without being banged up.
Agreed. I think you can probably start Keenan Allen, with some certainty. It was really nice to see him get involved and down the stretch. That nice 68-yard reception he had at the end of the game to put the Chargers back in the lead was great to see. Mike Williams was an outlier. I don't understand. Makes an unbelievable catch and then it just is out the rest of the game. It's the most Mike Williams play of all time.
Brandon Ayuk caught
getting
2
hot
passes again and had 2 touchdowns. I know it was a bit of an outlier game. They actually pulled their starters with 8 minutes left after that big Kittle touchdown. Ayuk's a very fine flex play, but I'm
starting Keenan over him.
Yeah, I think that's the right play.
Are we still starting Jamal and Amon-Ra versus Buffalo, or do we try to find pivots if we can? Got Rachaad White and Christian Watson on the bench. You know what? I'm just going to ride it out because the Detroit Lions find a way to be competitive, and even in bad game scripts, they still score fantasy points. So Jamal Williams leading the league in touchdowns. Amon-Ra is an absolute PPR machine. Buffalo or not, I think that they still are both productive. There's yet to be a game really where both options get completely shut down. So
I mean, Chubb didn't have a great game this past week, but the week before,
Aaron Jones ran all over the Buffalo Bills.
Aaron Jones did, and
9,
I want to say Michael Carter. I mean, they beat the Bills. Michael Carter had a great game as well, 76 yards and a touchdown. So I'm not scared of the Buffalo Bills defense right now.
No,
especially the rushing defense.
No, and the game's in dome, so there's a lot of variables that are taken out. Wind, potential for weather. We're in the snow season right now. Like we're at Ford Field in Detroit. I'm firing both those guys up with confidence. And if you're an owner like me who has Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, nothing points to DeAndre Swift getting a larger workload anytime soon. He's just capped at 40% snap share since his return. So Jamal Williams is a starter, and I'm going to keep rolling that way.
Love it.
Should I start Pat Freiermuth or David Njoku this week? Oh, boy.
I kind of like them both. I know Njoku didn't have the game we wanted to coming back. I mean, I think it's Freiermuth for me.
It's the volume on Freiermuth is where I lean.
Targets. I'm just looking at that now.
Whew. Yeah, the volume's been great for him.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Mikey. Smash that subscribe button if you're new to the channel.
Sir. Do I consider starting Chris Godwin over CeeDee Lamb?
No.
You probably don't with how the Cowboys are rolling right now. But Chris Godwin is a great play, and I would try to flex him if you could. JD, the targets have been great for Chris Godwin, very consistent. Finally got into the end zone, which is really nice to see. But CeeDee Lamb has the ability, as you saw against the Packers,
Yeah,
to just absolutely light a team up.
11 for 150 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
You can't.
like a 40-point fantasy day.
Godwin had that in his bag a couple of years ago. I don't think he has that anymore, unfortunately.
No, the ceiling's not as high for Godwin, but if you need a guy to grab you 6 to 8 balls and maybe get into the end zone, it's fantastic. In a PPR league, it's Chris Godwin with a lot of confidence, but I still wouldn't start him over CD right now.
Correct. That game script against Minnesota, I mean, you can't. It just happens, man. Like you start, 5 receptions, 45 yards. They didn't need him. It was the Tony Pollard show. It was that game was over at halftime. It felt like.
Raja said trade just happened now. I traded Dak, Ayuk, and Mike Evans for Hurts and Olave. Is that a decent trade, or did I overpay?
You overpaid.
Maybe a
for
little.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't see the Dak and Hurts. I would give a marginal edge to Hurts just because of his mobility.
Mm-hmm.
That's a difference maker between those two. But Ayuk and Evans, Ayuk's running hot. Mike Evans is Mike Evans, and then Chris Olave. I can't warrant the upside for Chris Olave is worth the depth of Ayuk and Mike Evans. So I think I would have stayed the Ayuk and Mike Evans side, but there is a notable quarterback upgrade. So just don't know that in the aggregate you win.
Olave's great. I hope he keeps riding hot for you. I still prefer likely Mike Evans rest of season, but it's not like it's a right now. Olave is ranked higher in fantasy football, so
Yeah. I tend to like the three-piece side.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Who doesn't like a good three-piece though? We got a defensive question. Dolphins or Commanders this week?
Ooh, Dolphins or Commanders. The Dolphins defense has not been very good.
No, but they do have a really nice matchup against Houston.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Commanders taking on the Falcons. The Falcons are one of these teams that just score points when it feels like they shouldn't, and they win games that they shouldn't. And this just kind of feels like one of those games. I'm gonna play the Miami defense just because the Texans look horrendous.
I agree. One thing that a defense doesn't matter how bad the team is necessarily. If they run the football, that limits turnovers.
Game time.
So if you have that's a good point too. Game time. But if you're passing the football, that's sacks, that's interceptions, more chances for fantasy points for that opposing defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Dolphins are fine. They might get it figured out here. They just had a bye week. They traded for those good defenders. They might figure it out. And what a better way to do it than playing the Houston Texans.
We got, again, another defensive question. Miami versus Houston, Denver versus Carolina, or the Jets versus the Bears. The Denver Broncos, for me, is the play here going up against Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. They have been so good all year. A defense that can get you turnovers, can plug teams up, and Sam Darnold doesn't present a huge challenge. So my vote is for the Broncos.
Yeah, mine too. I was hoping they were going to do good this past week too. They didn't so much, but I think the Broncos, you got to start with some confidence.
No, I agree.
Sam Darnold's going to be seeing ghosts out there.
Woo, seeing ghosts. We've seen that before from him. DK Metcalf here or Keenan Allen. DK Metcalf plays the Raiders.
I'm going DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I am as well. Nice to see Keenan get involved, no doubt. But DK Metcalf's been low-key great all year. And this is a guy who we kind of wrote off at the beginning of the year, like Tyler Lockett, because they had either Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Little did we know Geno Smith was going to be a potential fantasy MVP.
Seriously, I know. He's been a very good, consistent quarterback. He's my start of the week at the quarterback position because I don't think the Raiders have anyone that could even like they can't stop DK Metcalf. They could target him 25 times, and I don't think he misses a catch.
I
know
would
that
like to
doesn't happen,
also
but
I would like to acknowledge though that we haven't done our rankings yet, but Keenan Allen going up against the Cardinals, who we saw just get absolutely shredded last night.
Feels good.
It feels like a great matchup, a really good spot for him to kind of gain some momentum. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Keenan Allen falls in like our top 15 wide receivers this week.
And next week they have Las Vegas. I mean, he low key could be a guy that could help you get in the playoffs if you need him the next 2 weeks. I'm going to temper still expectations for a guy that's had a hamstring injury for 10 weeks.
Well, that's the thing with the hamstring injuries is the high risk of re-injury, especially for players who are over the age of 30, and Keenan kind of checks those boxes. So he's never out of the woods with an injury like that, unfortunately, but the schedule looks good. I liked his return. So I'm still playing Metcalf, but Keenan's going to still be, I think, a really good option.
Yeah.
Moving forward, should I trade Aaron Jones and Tyler Higbee for Mark Andrews and David Montgomery? I think you should.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Getting Mark Andrews is so hard to do. If you can get him, that's a good trade.
Jeff, would you flex this week Josh Palmer, Hollywood Brown, Pickens, or Cordero Patterson?
Whew. Jeff.
I know my answer.
Josh Palmer?
Wow. It's not a bad option, actually. We just talked up the Keenan Allen opportunity. I was going to go with George Pickens.
Yeah.
I think Hollywood's just too risky.
Yeah, I want to see it first from Hollywood. We thought he might get activated Monday night. He did not. I want to see full practice reports from Hollywood and probably a game before I really trust it. Patterson had that kickoff return.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, he had 10 rush attempts, 52 yards, so pretty good yards per carry, couple of receptions. I mean, he's always that flex play that never feels great.
Again, he doesn't score the touchdown, though. You feel very different about his fantasy day.
Totally. I totally agree. He's big. Like he looks like Deebo Samuel sometimes. Like that, he's a big boy.
Just such an interesting career for him. Yeah. My thing is that, again, since his return, had 2 good fantasy days. It's been on the back of, efficiency or the big play, like 2 touchdowns in week 9, and then a kick return to set the NFL record for most kick returns. If he doesn't have the big play, he likely disappoints you and hasn't gotten on the field for more than 50% of the snaps since returning. So there's been a definite shift. They are using Tyler Algier more and more and more. Cordero is a complementary option, not a primary option. And I think you have to take that with, a grain of salt in starting him. So I'm probably with Landon. I'm going to start Josh Palmer or George Pickens over Patterson. I think Hollywood's just too risky of a play at this point in time.
Yeah. All pretty good options, Jeff.
Jeff also traded Lazard and Foreman for Jalen Waddle. Geno and Schultz for Lamar. Good moves. No, Jeff, not good moves. Great moves. Great effing moves, my man. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great stuff right there.
Lamar, man. I think
it's fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine.
I know. He has been not that guy since week 2.
We've seen him do this before, though. Unfortunately,
I know. It's just he's on a cold streak.
Yeah, they'll turn it around. He's just got to get some. He's had so many pieces in and out of the lineup, like his safety valve and Mark Andrews gone for a couple weeks. Rashad Bateman out for the season. J.K. Dobbins just hasn't come back. Gus Edwards now out of the line. Like, this guy's had to deal with so much.
Oh yeah, totally. I agree.
The team's still finding a way to win, though. It's remarkable. I would like to see him back to his good old self for fantasy purposes, though.
Oh, those 40-point games where he puts up 100 on the ground.
LaMarvelous. Win me a week, my guy.
Yeah, I know.
Which one of these tight ends has the best rest of season schedule? Dulcich, Ingram, or Moreau in a half PPR?
All right. So Dulcich has a good schedule. Oh, okay, Carolina, Baltimore, Kansas City, Arizona, Rams, Kansas City. Not bad.
I'm going to be tempted to say that Evan Ingram probably has the best schedule, followed by Greg Dulcich. I would play both of those over Foster Moreau, and I think Evan Ingram's actually your target there. But it's close. I think that the most potential is with Dulcich. I think he's very athletic. He's commanding more and more work, and with Jerry Jeudy out of the lineup for the next couple of weeks, the role could grow more and more and more. But Evan Ingram's just been a very favorite target for Trevor Lawrence, especially in the red zone. So I'm going to go with Evan Ingram here.
Cool. Low key Foster Moreau against Seattle this week. It's a very good matchup.
Yep.
Hard to trust him. He got his only reception in overtime last week, but yeah.
Is P. Ryan worth an ad this week, coming off a really big game on a Joe Mixon concussion?
Alex, we don't know yet the status of Joe Mixon. I think he's worth an ad, just in case Joe Mixon misses. And if he does, then I think you can add him and start him. But we still don't know yet. So, I mean, if you need a running back to start, if you own Joe Mixon, yes, you can add Samaje.
I agree. Latavius Murray or Jeff Wilson?
Interesting. I don't know.
I'm going to go with Latavius there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right answer.
Doesn't feel good.
No, the Dolphins play Houston, which is very, very nice.
Really, really nice.
But we talked about it already. The Broncos play the Panthers, so I think you just play the less explosive, more volume Latavius Murray. Oh, gross.
Yeah, more opportunity. Like more opportunity means less reliance on efficiency.
I mean, Jeff Wilson had 17 attempts and 5 targets last week.
And at any given moment, it could be Raheem the Dream.
Totally. No, and that's the thing. That's why it feels gross. But the answer maybe Latavius is because of the split backfield in Miami.
I know. It's tough to project either way. They both have good matchups. If you want to roll with the better offense than Jeff Wilson and just, cross your fingers for that touchdown, I think that's an okay play. If you just want to go with the safer route, the guy who's probably going to get more volume, go with Latavius Murray. I think both are good plays. That's kind of up to you, Zaw, but I think that's kind of how we see it.
Yeah. If we find out that Jeff Wilson gets the majority of that backfield, I mean, he should be a locked and loaded starter. We just don't. I think it's going to be pretty split for the foreseeable future.
Agreed. Okay. What waiver wire position should I target? I have the 7th waiver. Dak, good quarterback. Pierce, Wilson, Najee, B-Rob, decent little core there. Lamb, Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, A-Rob. I think you've got to do something for your wide receiver position. Lamb and Cooper are great, but I'm gonna check that waiver wire if I'm you for someone like Jameson Williams, for example, who you could stash. Odell Beckham Jr. Any others that come to mind that you could maybe gain over the next couple weeks?
One of those high upside rookies that we like to talk about:
Treylon Burks,
Millie Burks. Burks, Watson, Jameson Williams. You don't need someone to start right away because
correct.
Donovan Peoples-Jones has been very solid. So upgrading that A-Rob position right now.
That's that's the piece.
You can get a high upside rookie that you might be able to just plug and play come playoff time. Because based on that roster, you're in a good playoff spot.
Agreed.
And 2 open bench spots. So yeah, a couple of rookies. Odell and Jameson.
My friend made a trade, and I don't know if it was good. Derrick Henry, CD, and Dameon Pierce for Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs. I prefer the Henry side by a mile.
Yeah, because I know Dameon Pierce had a bad game, but
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Henry and Dalvin you could call them close. Stephon Diggs and CD, you can call those close too. And then you got Dameon Pierce in there.
You got Dameon Pierce for free. I wouldn't call Henry and Cook close. I think Henry just has the ability to be the offense.
Right.
Dalvin Cook is never going to overshadow Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook's never going to do what Derrick Henry does to an offense where he gets the ball 40 times. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. And I do prefer Diggs over CD, but it's
not much.
It's not by
I just like getting Dameon Pierce for free. That's fantastic. Eagles or Chiefs defense this week?
Both are great.
Both are great, Michael. I think thinking long term though, the Eagles are a much better play rest of season. So if you can snag the Eagles, hang on to them.
If you have them both, I'll probably play Kansas City.
Play the Chiefs.
But just hang on to both if you can, and then drop the Chiefs next week. And just hang on to the Eagles are one of those defenses you just don't drop.
Agreed. Yeah. After this game here, they play. Who does Philly play this week? Green Bay, right?
Philly plays. Yeah, Green Bay. Yeah.
After this week, though, things get really nice for the Philadelphia Eagles. They go Green Bay this week, then Tennessee, the Giants, the Bears, the Cowboys, and the Saints to end the fantasy season. That's nice.
For the most part, that's pretty good. We're not sure yet with Justin Fields. We need to keep an eye on that.
It's just an offense that has struggled to be consistent. Like Justin Fields has been great the last couple of weeks with his legs, but outside of that, it's not like they've, been very safe with the football. It's not like they've scored a billion points. Like they've been kind of who they are, but Justin Fields is just overshadowing it with his fantasy prowess.
Yeah. If you could actually hang on to both right now,
sure.
I actually don't hate that because the Chiefs have to play Denver twice. They play Houston.
It's also not bad.
It's looking good.
Chiefs are low-key decent.
Yeah.
Do we think Samaje Perine is for real?
Depends what you mean, Jerry. No, I don't.
He's a real person, Jerry. I do believe that.
Yeah, I've never seen him in person, but I've heard he's real.
I think this was just the, being the beneficiary of a positive game script without the starter. And could you roster Samaje Perine as a Mixon owner in case this happens again?
Sure
you can. Would you go out and blow all your fab or your priority to get Samaje Perine? Only if Joe Mixon is out.
Yeah, if he's out next week and you need a starter, sure. But I don't expect this concussion to be long term. Not a doctor, but it might be one game. If he misses one game, he's fine. You can start him. But that's the thing with fantasy football and backup running backs. They're not worth anything until they are.
Correct.
Every backup running back, you saw what happened to Kenneth Walker once he got the opportunity. He wasn't used at all. Opportunity means so much for running backs. And clearly it was a great game for Samaje, but he didn't crest over 36% snap share all season long. It's not like they were hiding a secret of Samaje Perine. They know exactly what they have. Joe Mixon's a better talent. And that's just the way it is.
Said OBJ and Jameson are not available. Rookie choices are Dotson, Alec Pierce, Tyquan Thornton.
Dotson then for me.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson. I think in that order: Dotson, Pierce, Thornton. But I would roster Dotson if possible over Demarcus Robinson. Yeah, I would go Dotson.
Yeah, Demarcus Robinson. I mean, he's the de facto number one in Baltimore.
Well, what happened to Duvernay?
He's been trash.
I think the whole offense has just been a little bit off.
As soon as you think you can trust Duvernay, he just disappears.
Yeah, true.
The past two games,
2 targets in the last 2 weeks. Oh man, I didn't realize. I've kind of lost tabs on him, but Dotson would be the pickup for me. Yeah. We've seen him handle volume and do so very, very well, and I think with him, McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, like Taylor Heineke, I think is a really nice upgrade at quarterback. I like what I see.
Yeah. DeMarcus had a great game, 9 for 128 last week.
Should I hold on to Deonta Foreman, even though he's been underperforming? You should.
Yeah, he's a starting running back in a pinch. If he falls in the end zone, he's good, or he saves his kind of fantasy week. But yeah, he's worth.
You definitely hold him because, like you're going to see with Latavius Murray this week in your waivers, he's going to go for a decent amount of money because he has a starting job. And that Panthers game was just gross. It was just kind of ugly, and we've seen Deonta Foreman now in 4 weeks have 2 week winning performances and 2 duds. So you stomach the lows with the highs and you move forward. Would you roster James Cook over any of those wide receivers?
So I think, Millie, you said you had 2 roster spots. So I like Dotson and James Cook for sure. Another thing where James Cook actually got a little bit of play this week, and if something were to happen to Singletary, James Cook all of a sudden has an opportunity.
Just another team that doesn't really run the football with their running backs. Like,
no, totally.
Singletary has been better than he has been the last couple of years, but it's still Josh Allen. They still pass the ball at a high rate like the Chiefs do. It's not encouraging. I'd like to see a snap share increase a little bit more than what it has, but no doubt.
It was interesting. Only 25% snap share, but got 11 carries for 86 yards. So it was like every time he was on the field, he touched the football.
Right.
But
that was going to be my point. When called on, he's being used and schemed in there. But I'd like to see it at a higher rate.
Yeah. He's just a handcuff right now. You can't start him. It's just in case of injury.
Yeah, it's not a bad hold. I probably prioritize Demarcus Robinson and Dotson over him, but yeah. Should you drop Vikings D or Alec Pierce? Probably just drop the Vikings. Yeah, Vikings defense. Yep.
They're just they're just if they play the Jets or they play Houston or something, you can play the Vikings D, but in most matchups, they're not really they've been okay actually, now that I see their points, but
last question of the night here from Jerry Hernandez. How do we see Isaiah Pacheco future role as the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs? Good question.
Yeah, he doesn't profile as a pass catcher. That is Jerick McKinnon. So he's going to get 11 to 15 carries a game, and you're going to be happy if he gets in the end zone.
Agreed. Yeah, he is a running back who you hope the touchdown upside is high because of the team he plays for, but we've kind of learned things about Kansas City running backs. It's that we can't rely on the volume. This was their first 100-yard rusher, I believe, since 2019. It might have been 2020, but either way, it's been sort of an anomalous performance.
Clyde had 200-yard games last year.
Rushing or all-purpose?
Rushing.
Okay, then it was since Clyde. I don't know. I saw a stat during the broadcast, and I was like, oh, wow. That
crazy. Was the most rushing yards.
Most. Maybe it was most.
Yeah. But
either way, it's not been something that they have been doing. Yeah. Hold up. One more. Okay, fine. Will T. Higgins have a prominent role in my lineup, even though Jamar is coming back? I mean, I'd love to look into the crystal ball and tell you the answer is yes. What I can tell you is that T. Higgins is a good play no matter what. If Jamar Chase is on or off the field. It all depends on where Joe Burrow wants to go with the ball, but we know T. Higgins is very reliable. We know Jamar Chase is special as well. So maybe if there's a lack of volume for T. Higgins, there will be an increase in efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, Jamar Chase got injured in week 7, and T. Higgins had games with 10 targets, 9 targets, multiple touchdown games. He'll still get his. And to some people's point, all the the main coverage will always go to Jamar Chase. Their schemes will be to take him out of the game, and that will leave T. Higgins with some lighter coverage and a little bit forgotten about. So it's nice to see that T. Higgins can kind of take that number one role, which we weren't really sure definitively that he could, but he can. He could be a number one on any team, it seems like. So,
well, if you recall, last year, for example, Jamar Chase on the first half of the fantasy season was the wide receiver 3, averaging 17.5 fantasy points per game, which was a fantastic rate. Then you look at the latter half of the season, weeks 9 through 17, Jamar Chase fell to the wide receiver 9 at 15 points per game, and T. Higgins elevated to the number 8 wide receiver at 15 points per game. So T. Higgins, even in the presence of Jamar Chase being still a top 10 wide receiver, still being an elite player, was able to be a top 10 fantasy option. So I don't think it really matters if Jamar is on the field or not. Clearly, you would like to think that if Jamar was off, that it would be more opportunity, but it might not be more red zone upside. The high value touches just might not be the same. So in the end, would I choose T. Higgins with Jamar Chase? I would choose him with, because I would want somebody that could help move the chains and score the football. So I don't think it really matters. I think you're starting T. Higgins no matter what.
When you have a quarterback too, that throws the ball almost 40 times a game, I mean, that's a good thing. You have Joe Burrow tossing a rock. He has trust in both guys. Things are good in Cincinnati.
In the top 10 quarterback performance of last year, like total yardage, Joe Burrow owned 3 of the top 10. I believe 2 inside the top 5. Like, the guy can have big games. The coaching staff has given him the green light to just chuck it. And when Jamar's on the field, it's better for everybody. So yeah. I absolutely think that you're starting T. Higgins no matter what.
Sounds good. Last question from Kyle. 10
team league. The last question.
Starters Geno Smith. He could grab Jimmy G because of that 4 touchdown game. I would still start Geno Smith, Kyle.
I would too. Geno has been doing it over a longer sample size. I think he adds an element of mobility that Jimmy just does not have. And we haven't seen Jimmy Garoppolo throw 4 touchdown passes in a very, very, very long time. So this was an outlier performance. They absolutely smacked the Arizona Cardinals last night, who were on Colt McCoy watch. I'm not overreacting. I'm going to go with Geno, who's been a top 10 quarterback the entire year, not just, one given week. So
and they
stick with Geno. And
they play the Raiders. The Saints are a much tougher matchup.
Agreed. Yeah, the matchup is tougher for this week. I think chasing the points is dangerous. I'll just go with Geno again. Larger sample size, more confidence in him.
Yep, sounds good.
Amazing. All right, guys, appreciate you coming by and all the questions. If you like the stream, please drop a like before you depart. If you like the show, subscribe to the channel. We do this each and every week, Tuesday nights to get your waivers right, and 90 minutes before kickoff on Sundays. For all of our American listeners, happy Thanksgiving to you. Enjoy the time with your families. Eat some turkey and all the other delicious treats that come with the Thanksgiving. Watch that waistline. Drink some water to help the bloat. And we'll see you on Sunday. Enjoy that football on Thursday. We'll see you.
Good luck, everyone.